The Joker is arguably one of DC's most popular villains ever, and a lot of that has to do to his huge movie appearances in the Dark Knight trilogy, a little bit with the Batman, and all of his animated appearances. But these appearances barely scratch the surface of who the Joker is. Today, we're going to be diving deep into the comics and let you know everything you need to know about the Clown Prince of Crime. He first appeared in Batman #1 in 1940. And bit of a fun fact, he was actually supposed to die in his second appearance, but was kept on due to the editor just really enjoying the character. And from there, he's kind of just taken off. He died a little bit down in the 60s and then had a major resurgence in the 70s. And since then, it's pretty much history.
He didn't start becoming very popular, I would say, until like much later. I would say like the 80s, and when Batman really started turning around. And the Joker's really always been an ambiguous character. And I liked it when they kept it that way. That's my preferred Joker, when he was just, a rabid dog that just let loose. As opposed to now where it's becoming more of a thing where we get backstories on certain characters. I told Griff yesterday, that Michael Myers works best to me when he's just the boogeyman that can't die. Why can't he die? That was part of the intrigue for this. Why does the Joker do what he does? That's why I was into the aspects of the Joker, because, well, we didn't know. The backstory I like best is the Red Hood, the whole Ace Chemical thing. He was a Ace Chemical chemist, wannabe comedian, wanting to get in good with the mob. He was just down on his luck. His job sucked. His wife was always on his ass. I'm sure that most guys could, sympathize with something like that. His life sucked. He lived in a really shitty, roach-infested apartment. His wife was pregnant, barely making ends meet. He gets the opportunity to get in good with the mob by putting on the Red Hood. And essentially, it's just, they're just using him as a pawn. But he doesn't know that. He thinks now he's part of the gang. He thinks he's going to be, you know, maybe get turned into a made guy or something like that, which does not happen. And we have the encounter with Batman. I'm sure that most of you guys are familiar. They go on a heist. He's just there as a figurehead. Police show up, Batman shows up. He accidentally gets thrown into the batch of chemicals, which later on is part of the Tim Burton 1989 Batman movie. We do see the Ace Chemical heist situation, although there he's actually a mobster as opposed to someone who's just, down on his luck trying to join the mob. Anyway, he gets thrown into this batch of chemicals, and instead of, mutilating him, it bleaches his skin white as snow and his hair green, which is funny because that's the iteration that I like the most, as opposed to, although I do love Heath Ledger's Joker, and I'm sure most of you guys do, I didn't like the fact that it was makeup and that his paint on his hair is like running, and his mascara essentially is like he has to reapply it. I like much more the Tim Burton approach, where it's closer to the comics. Jack Napier's face is, well, his whole body's bleached white, and he actually paints his face brown, if you will, to look more human. I like that idea better because that it adds to his madness. He comes out of that batch of chemicals just looking like a clown. Now it's more of a thing where he's cut up his face, and there's more iterations like that. I like this more. He goes to a plastic surgeon after the chemical batch, and doesn't goes to a crummy plastic surgeon. He does his best, and that smile is cemented into his skin. But the evil mad Joker, as opposed to, like in the 70s and 60s with the kapow and the bams, where he was just funny and he had that little device on his hand where he would shock you. I like demented Hannibal Lecter Joker, because another thing we mentioned earlier, he was a chemist. So you can't be a chemist if you're a dumbass. This guy was highly intelligent. He was just down on his luck, but he's not dumb by any means. And he keeps Batman on his toes, and I like that about him. I like the fact that Joker, even though he's completely insane, he claims to not have a plan, but he clearly has a plan to keep Batman on his toes, and I like that.
The Joker, given his name, commits most of his crimes with comedic weapons. He has a razor sharp playing cards, acid flowers, lethal electronic joy buzzers, but most notably, he has the Joker Venom, Happy Gas, whatever you want to call it, which is a deadly poison that infects his enemies with the similar smile that he has, and they die while laughing uncontrollably. This used to start in a gas form, but now it can also transmit it via touch. It's in his makeup, so if someone touches his face, you die that way too. He has skills with hand-to-hand combat over the years. He's not as proficient as Batman. Every single time Batman takes him down, and as we get new riders, his strength levels varies. He can be taken out in one punch, or he can have a few, like a several minute fight with him. It varies as you go with riders.
Yeah, and then add to that as we said at the beginning of our video, he's a chemist. So because a lot of people are like, where does he get all this stuff? Well, he makes most of this shit on his own. Of course, he probably has help from Harley or his henchmen, but remember, he's a very intelligent person or thing at this point. I'm not sure how to word it. And behind that madness is a huge IQ. And that's what makes him so dangerous.
Yeah, and to go along with that, there was one issue where he captured a computer expert just because he that wasn't his field of expertise. Then several issues later, we saw him learning everything he needs to about computers just so he wouldn't have to rely on anyone else again. He is nothing short of brilliant. He's skilled in chemistry, genetics, nuclear engineering, and honestly, pretty much everything at this point. He's a force to be reckoned with.
Absolutely. And which is why I think Batman should kill him. I think the world is better off without the Joker. Not comics, but the world. I love his laugh. I love the killing joke because in that comic, to me, it was the first time where I really saw this sadistic, dark, evil, twisted Joker. And obviously later on in Death of the Family, where he kills Jason Todd, because it just makes me think outside of comics, makes me think Hannibal Lecter and other serial killers like that. And if you've read those comics, the way he tortures Jason Todd, the way he tortures Barbara Gordon, and later on Commissioner Gordon, that's the Joker that works best for me. What about you, Chris?
I do agree. There are three iterations of the Joker. There's three big ones. We have the one that Edward and I like, more of the insane one. We have the anarchist, and then we have the mobster. And each of those pretty much had their own era. Like they had the golden era Joker, silver era, silver age, and then the modern era. And I do like the more maniacal one because I think that just makes a lot more sense to me because as Edward said, we don't need to know why he's doing what he's doing. We don't need explicitly stated, whereas the anarchist and the mobster, it's pretty clear why he's doing what he's doing. But a lot more recently, because how it started out was DC villains, especially with Batman, they didn't kill unless they were one-off villains. So they tamed him down so much until he was revamped. And then now he's become almost evil incarnate. And I like that because evil and the Joker, they don't need a reason to do what they do.
They're just
And
evil.
yeah, I mean, it's said in the Killing Joke, and that's the whole purpose of the Killing Joke. His point is everyone is one bad day from becoming him, and that's what he wanted to do to Jim Gordon. And to an extent, I do think he's right. And I think that iteration of the Joker, like you said, is definitely the most impactful, and I think has the best storytelling potential because, I mean, mobsters. We have so many mobsters in Batman. We have Falcone family, Maroni, so many. There's countless of them, and they're a dime a dozen.
Even the Penguin's a mobster.
Yeah, anarchist, pretty similar. I mean, a little bit more variety there, but the Joker is unique. I do understand why some people may not like him or find him a bit boring, but to me, I do think he's unique. And especially as they change writers with him, they each bring a different perspective to him and a new way to tell the story. More recently, as Edward said, they have gone a lot more into his backstory, but even that is unreliable at best, as he even says in the Killing Joke that that's just how he remembers it, but it changes from day to day. And ever since the Killing Joke, they've added more to his backstory. And for the most part, they have kept the Killing Joke origin, the Red Hood origin canon. That is at least the most widely recognized one. They've gone about it because his wife did die, and they've said it was a mob hit, and she was the reason he was coerced into it, like she was being held captive. There was another one where she, her death was only faked, and she was put into witness protection and moved to Canada, and to just to get away from the guy. And then later Batman did find her, which kind of clues in that Batman does know who the Joker is, which I am kind of against. But they have these things years and years down the line as they add more writers just because they want to leave their own stamp. But the Joker is best as a mystery because chaos and sometimes just random acts of evil just happens in the world. And if you look for a reason, sometimes you're just going to drive yourself mad doing it.
You know, I like reasons and motives for some characters.
Most
I've
characters,
said
I would
this
say.
I've said this several times, you know, Magneto works best because of his origin, the horrific situation he endured as a child in the Holocaust. The fact that now as an adult, mutants are persecuted. The Joker, he even says it in some of the comics and even in some of the movies. I just go. If Batman were not there, and this has been proven in comics, in the Emperor Joker comic, and also in the Dark Knight Returns, you know, we see him in Arkham, which I don't like that iteration of Arkham. It's just way too bright for me. I like gloomy, crazy ass Arkham. But my point is, he's like sedated in that comic. He's just there until he sees a newsreel of Batman returning. Then he's like, gotta go to work and be fucking crazy again. That's his entire purpose. You gotta love a guy with a purpose. Is messing with Batman. And when Batman's not around, he's just like, eh.
Yeah, and the funny thing with like going to Michael Myers, like being shot in the face, Joker is very similar. And that was also, like, I guess, part of the point with the writers. Like, he's been trapped in a burning building. He's been shot several times. He has fallen down massive heights. And then every issue following, he just comes back unharmed every single time. And they've even alluded to, almost proven, that I'm not a huge fan of this, but it has to be stated that the Joker could be centuries old at this point, which defeats the entire purpose of what Edward just said in his entire motivation. There's records in Gotham in the newspaper of this bleach skin man terrorizing Gotham for centuries. Very similar to how Ra's al Ghul uses chemicals to stay young, and not a huge fan of it.
I'm half and half on that. It almost takes away from the Joker in a way,
I think it does, yeah.
but in another aspect, good and evil have always existed. When I think of the Joker, I think of, as Griff mentioned earlier, I think of pure evil. I don't think of a mastermind who's sitting there like, how am I going to fuck Batman's day up today? I think of someone who wakes up in the morning and every single thought from the moment he opens his eyes is pure evil. I'm going to murder a child today. I am going to blow up a bank. Even the way he treats Harley Quinn, who's in love and obsessed with him, is evil, which is why I didn't like Jared Leto's Joker. Well, one of the reasons, because he cares for her. Joker doesn't give two single fucks about Harley or anyone. I don't even think he. Well, no, I'm certain he doesn't care about himself as long as,
He just cares about the Batman.
yeah, which is fucking crazy. But then again, the Joker is pure insanity and pure evil. So that's the Joker I stick with. The funny one, the laugh that I like is the laugh that's pure evil, not the ah ha ha, that what I just did was funny. I don't like that shit. But when he just laughs out of pure malice and evil, that's the Joker I stick with. Now, grant you, I'm sounding like I'm a fan of the Joker. If I were Batman, I would have snapped that neck third encounter in because yes, Batman has this motive that I don't kill rule, but it's not like Daredevil's. You know, Daredevil does it because his Catholicism. He's afraid of what's going to happen to his soul. Batman just does that out of that's just his code. But because of that code, the Joker has killed countless people, murdered them, even his partner, paralyzed Barbara Gordon, really fucked up Jim. I mean, if you guys have read Alan Moore's Killing Joke or even seen the movie, the animated movie, what Jim goes through in that iteration is pretty fucked up. And having to see your daughter like that, then what he does to him in the fair, Batman should have just killed him.
Yeah,
He should kill him.
I agree. And also, one thing about the Joker is his mental state and insanity is not as cut and dry as it seems out to be. And this, again, this,
No, sometimes he just seems like a normal dude.
but at one point in with Grant Morrison, he was not insane. He was super sane. It sounds funny as all hell, but it's more just that he knows he's in a comic book, and this has still been seen to this day, and that none of his actions matter. So why the fuck not? Because yeah, as Edward says, he
That's
kills on a
crazy as
whim.
balls.
Yeah, I mean it's not like on the level of Deadpool, but it is close to. I mean, when the big Marvel and DC crossover happened, the Joker referenced several events that happened in the Batman and Spider-Man crossover that happened years before that's not canonical and didn't even take place in the DC universe. But like things like that, he knows he's a movie character. He knows he's in a comic book and just nothing matters. And I mean, also like along the lines with that, Scarecrow sprayed him with fear toxin and it's had no effect. Joker doesn't fear a thing.
You know, it's been said, not in any Joker comics that I am aware of. Yeah, it's been said around the nerd circle, the comic book fan world, if you will. And I'm sorry to go back to Michael Myers, but it's been said that, and this I like, hell won't have them. And that may sound stupid when you first hear it, but give it a moment to simmer, like you will a nice steak. Just, don't eat it right away. Just let the juices cook. How fucked up are these two dudes that when they die, even Satan's like, nope, fuck out of here. I don't want you guys here. Batman's been sprayed with fear toxin and has been sent into fucking nightmare frenzy. Joker dusts himself off and goes on about his business. That is, think about that, guys. That's scary shit because the Scarecrow manages to put Batman on his knees with fears and nightmares and reminiscing of these horrible things that have happened to him. Robin's been sprayed with this shit. Batgirl, they all go into even Superman. Joker's just like, and then beats the dude with the chair and then just goes about his business. Even in Arkham, it's natural for the guards to be afraid of these people because, they're guards and these guys are fucking freaks of nature. But when the other inmates don't want anything to do with this dude, yeah, he's Batman's arch enemy. He's the
Yeah.
big one of the rogues gallery, and it's a big rogues gallery.
Oh, it's a great rogue gallery too. But also, and very importantly, with that, there's not a single other hero in DC who is equipped to deal with the Joker, and that's been proven time and time again. We had Injustice, which started the entire time because Joker tricked Superman into killing Lois Lane and their unborn child. And then Superman killed the Joker, and Superman became a dictator of the entire world. This has happened time and time again, and I
Yeah.
think that is always
Griffin
unique.
and I are going to be long dead, and you guys are still going to be reading and seeing Batman and Joker go at it. It's
Yeah,
just it is timeless.
it
It's
is.
it's good versus evil at its core. And Joker said it best in The Dark Knight, the Christopher Nolan movie. Where it's this is what happens when an unmovable object, runs into an unstoppable force. That is what happens. Joker's an unstoppable force. Batman's an immovable object. He will not waver. Batman won't kill the Joker, no matter how. Look at all he's done. He's killed Jason Todd. He
Yeah.
crippled Barbara. Look everything he's
Rape
put him
Barbara.
through. He raped her, and Batman still won't. Any other man in those circumstances would have snapped Joker's neck because it's not like Joker's physically able to take on Batman in a hand-to-hand combat. Batman's gonna beat the shit out of the Joker. We all know that. Joker's no punk. I mean, it's not like he can't throw a punch. Like he's just
Oh
some
yeah,
clown.
no.
That's not what I meant at all. But clearly, Batman is the better fighter of the two, and Joker enjoys that. But see, that's the thing. That's why it's so twisted. Joker enjoys getting the crap kicked out of him and his ribs cracked open by Batman. Batman holds back his punches because he doesn't want to take that extra step. And even Jason told him, just fucking kill him.
Honestly, I mean, even part of that, Joker got off on cutting off his own face and then stapling it.
That shit is fucked up.
Yeah, he just completely got off on it. And that's a whole new level. That's crazy.
He will continue to surprise us in every iteration. There's not all of them land. Jared Leto's not for us. If you guys are fans of it, great. But he will continue to surprise us. He will continue to make us sick in the stomach. He will continue to do things and up the ante as each new writer comes. Some will tone it down, some will amp it up. He'll eventually do something so fucked up that you know, maybe somebody doesn't want to read it, but that's just the Joker. He's
Yeah.
pure evil. Evil in the world exists. And in DC, they've done it best with the Joker. And yes, I agree with Griffin 100%. The only person equipped, say what you want about Superman, that he could move whatever, that he could, do this, say what you want about Wonder Woman, say what you want about Aquaman, the rest of the league. But the only one mentally equipped to deal with the Joker's craziness is Batman.
Yeah. And if you want some really good comics to read, I mean, we've cited it several times. Killing Joke's fantastic. You really get into the core of the character. There's a legend backstory and some really terrible deeds he commits. There's Death in the Family, which I think's always fun as the reader voted if Jason Todd should die or miraculously escape.
I
And
remember that. I
yeah, I mean,
vividly remember that.
if you haven't seen The Dark Knight, definitely recommend that. That's one of the best iterations of the Joker. But if you want the best movie or cartoon, go watch Mark Hamill play the Joker because he is 10 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video about one of DC's best villains, go check out everything you need to know about Doctor Doom. We go over one of Marvel's best characters ever.
Take care, guys.